Welcome to Football Letter Live. This week we welcome Penn State football letterman Justin King and Penn State Alumni Association President Kelly Lynch. We have extensive video coverage of last week's win over Villanova, and we'll also share opportunities for all Penn Staters to get involved. If you're a Penn Stater, you belong in the Alumni Association. And if you love Penn State, you're in the right place. This is Football Letter Live. Where else would you rather be than a room full of Penn Staters? Welcome into Football Letter Live. I'm your host, Paul Clifford. I'm going to be joined shortly by John Petishnock, but what a great show we have lined up for you tonight. Justin King is in the house. He's going to be talking about his time as a Nittany Lion and Lockdown U and all the great things that he's working on. Now we're going to talk to the 82nd president of the Penn State Alumni Association. Kelly Lynch is here. But I am in a room full of Penn Staters. We are here in the Hintz Family Alumni Center in Robb Hall, and the room is packed with alumni council members who have come back to Happy Valley to serve their alma mater. I think we got a live shot here into the room where you could take a look and see all the people who are gathered here and enjoying each other's company back in Happy Valley for the big game against Indiana this weekend. We have a lot going on at the Alumni Association. We have our memorabilia all set up here on our table. You'll get to see that in just a couple minutes. Here's the live shot of downtown State College. You can see the sidewalks are filling up with Penn Staters coming in for this week's showdown with the Indiana Hoosiers. A little bit of a payback or a revenge game this weekend. Again, a great program, great show lined up for you tonight. A lot of things going on at the Alumni Association this Friday night. We get to honor our volunteers with the volunteer award ceremony. We have alumni fellows coming up next week in which we honor some of our most accomplished alumni who are doing great things in their career and in their communities. And so we get to celebrate them on Wednesday night. And then after that next Wednesday, we head to Iowa. And we hope to see a lot of Penn Staters out there in Iowa with us. We're going to have a pep rally. The pep rally is free. We're going to have a mixer that's hosted by the Iowa chapter. They always put on a great show when we're out there, $25 to get into that mixer. But for right now, it's Indiana. And we're going to take a little bit of a look back on Villanova. But before we do that, let's welcome John Petishnock into the show. John, how are you tonight?
Hey, I'm doing well, Paul. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a little distracting here. I don't know what game's next. I'm saying the wrong team coming up. A lot of people here in the Hintz Family Alumni Center starting to feel like things are getting back to normal a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big night. You know, football players talk about the energy that they get from fans at Beaver Stadium. It's the same way for us. We've got Alumni Council volunteers in town this weekend. There's a buzz around here. You know, we talk about anytime there are students or volunteers in the building, it's a big night for us. We're going to have Kelly Lynch on, Justin King is on. And, we're coming off the heels of another successful Saturday at Beaver Stadium where the Nittany Lions improved to 4-0 and also moved up in the standings to number 4. For a noon kickoff, I thought that there was a fantastic crowd at the stadium. I think people have always been excited about Penn State football, but when you look at what's happening this season, there's a lot of fun. The Nittany Lion was there on Saturday rocking the Ferris Bueller look. That was fun. But again, it's just, every Saturday at Beaver Stadium is just, it's just a wonderful experience for us. It's a wonderful experience for alumni and Penn Staters to come back into town. So we're looking for more of the same the rest of the season.
I always look forward to seeing the Nittany Lion, seeing what kind of shenanigans he's going to be pulling during the game. But what a great game. Over almost 500 yards, over 500 yards of total offense. The offense was clicking, a lot of big plays, which excites the fans, and the defense showed up once again. I know we have some great highlights to show those who are watching tonight on Football Letter Live.
Yeah, defense played well. I feel like, Brent Pry just never gets enough credit. So, defense played well. Offense did what it had to do. It was 38-3 before, James Franklin kind of pulled the starter. So I know if you just look at the final score, it might not be, indicative of the way that the team played. But, they did what they had to do to win. And I said, earlier, when you look at the national scoreboard, there are a lot of teams that were supposed to win on Saturday that didn't win. And not only that, but they weren't even competitive. And so, you kind of see the chatter about Penn State football, about the running game and what's maybe where are they struggling. And I'm thinking they're 4-0. They're number 4 in the country. Fans have a lot of reasons to be excited, but certainly defense played well. Offense played well. And look, let's give Jordan Stout a shout out. I mean, the premier kicking specialist in the country. Got a couple photos of him at practice yesterday. And so I feel like, there's just, you can't say enough, not only about, Jordan Stout and Joe Lorg and the things that they're doing, but certainly when you even look at the new coaches that are with the program this year, like you would think maybe it takes them a little bit of time to gel, but not so much. And I think what we saw on Saturday is closer to what Mike Hirsich wants to see every weekend with taking shots down the field. Jahan Dotson, first play, 52 yards. I mean, that was the right tone set. Jahan Dotson talked the other week about wanting to set the tone for the wide receiver group, and certainly he did that on Saturday.
Absolutely, John. You bring up a good point about the new coaches on the coaching staff. Last year, we had new coaches on the staff, and we saw our offense struggle a little bit last year, right? Football is a contact sport. It's a face-to-face sport. Yursich comes in, Brett, with a newer, or at least a newer version of the offense that we were running, and the players have picked it up so much quicker. That the timing is so much better this year. Things are clicking on all cylinders, and Sean Clifford looks like a different quarterback this year. So we want everyone tonight to share their questions. If you have questions for either of our guests, go ahead and share those. We want to give a shout out to our winners from the previous 2 episodes of the Football Letter Live prize pack, Kevin McKinney and Lauren Blue. Congratulations to both of you. You are the winners of the Football Letter Live prize packs. We're going to get those out in the mail to you. If you want to win a Football Letter Live prize pack, all you have to do is put a comment on Facebook or on YouTube, or share the stream, and you too can be entered into a drawing for a Football Letter Live prize pack. I see we got John Petishnak back up and running here. John, a little technical difficulties there, but I hope things are figured out over there. Everything good?
Yeah, Paul, the crowd is so rocking. This crowd is ready to rock Beaver Stadium, and right now they're rocking the Hintz Family Alumni Center. And so I know that, we had a really exciting weekend at Beaver Stadium with Villanova in town. We've got a lot to look forward to with Indiana coming into town this weekend. We've got Kelly Lynch on tonight. And so there's a lot to look forward to.
Absolutely. Well, let's get to Kelly Lynch. Kelly is a 1987 graduate from the Smeal College of Business. She is the 82nd president of the Penn State Alumni Association. She started her 2-year term in July. She previously served as the treasurer and VP of the Alumni Association. She's been significantly involved with the Greater Allegheny campus and is helping them with their campaign for 21st Century Excellence. Professionally, she most recently was the Chief Financial Officer and VP of Operations for OTHOT. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. It's a crazy environment here in the Hintz Family Alumni Center.
But it's loud, lively, and a lot of fun. It's great to see everybody here.
Absolutely. Hey, let's start right at the very beginning. How did you become a Penn State Nittany Lion?
So it's a story that's not uncommon. My parents actually were not Penn Staters. My father was born in Cleveland. My mom grew up in Ann Arbor, but we ended up in Pittsburgh. Growing up, I didn't really pay attention to football in the local colleges. When it came time for me to look, my mother asked me where I was interested. I told her some places. She said, "What about Penn State?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. It seems too close." She's like, "Let's just go up and visit." So my sister, because she had seen it, my sister was a swimmer. They'd gone up for swimming. So my parents, my dad took the day off. My mom and my mom, dad, my grandfather was in town because it was my mom's birthday. We went up to Penn State for the day. We got lost in Altoona because any of you who were probably 15 plus years ago knew that 99 wasn't around. So we had to go through Altoona. So we were late getting up. We ended up getting our own private tour of Penn State with the Lion Ambassadors. It was a day like today, 65 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. Thursday before a football game. It was beautiful. Took the tour. We went into Schwab Auditorium. My grandfather sat outside, and no less than 3 or 4 gentlemen, as he called them, stopped up to ask, "How are you doing, sir?" They were preppy and nice, clean cut-looking guys. And my grandfather declared right then, "My granddaughter's coming to Penn State," even though he lived a block from Michigan. Well, that day was fantastic. I filled out my application that weekend. I was done. I became a Penn State Nittany Lion in October of 1982.
Excellent. So, Kelly, following up on that, you talked about a Lion Ambassadors. Beyond that, at what point did Penn State start to feel like it was home for you?
I started getting involved with activities almost immediately when I came up to Penn State. I was a lifeguard, believe it or not, at the natatorium for a few weeks. I made the university choir, so that was in my freshman year. And Penn State just started getting smaller. I couldn't go anywhere on campus where you didn't run into people that you didn't know or you didn't recognize. And then I just kept getting more involved in activities with Lion Ambassadors, the sorority. I also went to events. Like we had speaker series. We had people, different, I think, concerts and shows come to campus. I tried to take advantage of all of it. And the freshman year, first semester, was great. Had some homesickness every now and then, but by getting involved, it became my home pretty quickly.
So, Kelly, now you're the 82nd president of the Penn State Alumni Association. Talk a little bit about when you're up in front of big crowds like at commencement, right? What's your message to the most recent graduates?
Oh, I was so fortunate to, one of my first events as president was to speak in August at the graduation. And basically, I was so excited to welcome these students, well, now alumni, into the Alumni Association. We have such a large network. We have over 172,000 members in our Alumni Association. Now there's a total of 740,000 total alumni. And we're all over the place. And we're so passionate. And we're so passionate about Penn State and about each other. And so especially as new alumni, knowing that wherever you go, you'll be able to find other Penn Staters. And they care about you. And they care and they want you to get involved, feel comfortable where you live. They help with job recruiting, help interviewing, and also just getting involved with your local community. I know many other universities have large alumni bases, but wow, I think ours is so special because they really do care about each other.
Different levels of getting involved. Some people volunteer every now and then there's what you're doing where it seemed like once you start volunteering, you just wanted to get more into it. At what point did you realize that you wanted to get back at a level that was on a regular basis, and then eventually get you now to be the president of the Alumni Association?
So I was very fortunate. I grew up with a couple of parents who were very involved in the community. They taught each of my siblings and me that you need to be a member of society. You need to always give back. And so, quite frankly, right out of college, when I was moving around with my different companies, I was involved from the beginning. Now, not as involved with Penn State, always was recruiting Penn Staters and going to events. But after I got my graduate degree and kind of settled in, I was fortunate to get involved at the Greater Allegheny campus. Someone that I used to work with, he invited me to come to the campus and see if I would become involved with me with that campus. And I had always loved Penn State, but it was finally time some of my other commitments were ending and I was able to fully commit. So I got first involved at the Greater Allegheny campus, which is just outside of Pittsburgh. And then fortunately, I went to a bunch of alumni events, alumni council, learned more about the alumni council, and ran for that back in 2016 and was elected. I'm so passionate about Penn State, about education, and about also helping students get, to try to live their dreams out, that I wanted to get involved. My desire to become president really came about with just a lot of different ideas that I had, going around working in other nonprofits in a volunteer capacity, what people do from an operational standpoint to keep this moving forward. Right now I'm in our second 150 years. But more importantly, I wanted to also do what I could to help reach out to all the alumni, to see how can we help engage as many alumni back to the university, because most alumni do, they just don't know how.
Kelly, we have this broad and expansive network of affiliate groups in the Penn State Alumni Association. You had the chance to go out to Wisconsin and kind of feel the energy of that affiliate group live. Talk a little bit about the expansive network of chapters and clubs and societies and all of our affiliate groups, and how that helps to keep Penn Staters connected.
So we have over about 130 alumni chapters, and then in total about 300 chapters that also include what they call the interest groups and program groups that are related to the campuses in different colleges. And this is global; it's everywhere. I love, we have such an active Shanghai chapter, and so basically wherever you go, you can find a Penn State player. And they're just arms. They're the local group of our total alumni association. So people can get involved with the local chapters and meet, get involved with their community, but can also get involved at the larger level with a lot of the bigger events. That opportunity at Wisconsin was great. Not only was I able to meet people from Wisconsin, we had a ton of people travel from all over the country to come. It was obviously one of the first, it was the first football game in 2 years.
Right.
My grandma immigrated from Ireland, and she had a saying that the farther away from Ireland you go, the more Irish you become. And I'm convinced Penn State has that same thing, that no matter how far you are always a Penn Stater, and we're so excited to interact and meet and work with other Penn Staters, because we all have something in common, regardless of what campus that you went to. There is something about Penn State, and we want to share it with each other.
Kelly, I know you're excited about our next guest who's coming up, Justin King, a fellow Gateway Gator, right? Same high school as you. Talk a little bit about, what you remember from Justin and Justin's family, and how excited you are to hear about him on Football Letter Live.
I was thrilled when I saw that he was the co-host. So his stepdad Terry, he would play football with my brother. His uncle Harvey was about 2 years older than I. So their family was very involved in Monroe. And I know when Justin committed to come to Penn State, I know I was thrilled, both for Penn State, because I knew we were getting this, great athlete coming, and also from Terry that Justin was coming up. And man, he was fabulous at Gateway, but wow, he was incredible up at Penn State. Watching him, he really was helped turning the tide back in that, that 2007 time frame. Really made an impact on Penn State, and I think that Smith is that's a great family. It's a Penn State family. I think their grandfather went. Brother, so it's fantastic. It's great to see kind of that legacy continue.
Absolutely. You're a big Penn State football fan. Indiana coming back here to Happy Valley. It's a payback game. What's your prediction for the score?
So I was thinking about this. I'm going that with 34-10 Penn State. I think the defense is going to score 10 to 14 points.
Whether it's direct or, because they're turnovers. And honestly, I think the offense is just going to chug away. You've heard me say it. I like chunks. I like scoring, like moving the ball 4 to 6 yards. I think the offensive line is going to do a great job, and it's going to be a steady Eddie, and we're going to come out with a big victory. on Saturday. Cannot wait.
Well, Kelly, we're delighted you're the 82nd president of the Penn State Alumni Association, and we're delighted that you've joined us on Football Letter Live. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you both.
All right, so that was Kelly Lynch, 82nd president of the Penn State Alumni Association. John Petishnock back here with you. I am joined by Paul Clifford, our fearless CEO of the Alumni Association. Vince Longaro is producing. We also just want to give a quick shout out to some colleagues who helped us get this set up. And so, we have an awesome team here at the Alumni Association. Melanie Parentu has helped set this up, Dan Hansel with the IT team. And so we appreciate everyone joining us tonight. This is something new that we're trying. We're glad that you're having this experience with us. And so, Paul, what do you say we bring on Justin King, and I can do that?
Absolutely, yeah. Go right ahead, John. Just keep flowing with it.
Just keep rolling. So our next guest, we really are truly thrilled. So Justin King, standout cornerback for Penn State from 2005 to 07. I was in school here in 2005. I can tell you how big of a deal it was when Justin King committed to Penn State. It truly was a big deal. And so had an immediate impact as a true freshman, was on the 2005 team that won the Big Ten title, had that epic Orange Bowl victory. I believe you were in the stadium that night, Paul, the triple overtime game. As we've mentioned, Justin has deep roots to the Penn State community. His stepfather, Terry Smith, is on the coaching staff. Terry was on the show last year. Many Penn Staters are familiar with him. Justin declared for the NFL draft following his junior season, enjoyed time in the NFL and was successful. Actually returned to Happy Valley for a couple of seasons in the recruiting department for Penn State football. We'll ask him about that. And he's also up to some exciting things now, owns his own company, and the recent name, image, and likeness news that has come out this year has been particularly impactful for him, and he can speak to that as well. And so, Justin, welcome to Football Letter Live. Paul and I are absolutely thrilled that you're making time for us tonight.
John and Paul, thank you guys for having me on. Thank you.
Hey, let's talk about.
Wonderful to see you.
Yeah. Hey, Justin, let's talk about your time at Penn State. Can you talk about the journey that you got, the journey for you to become a student athlete at Penn State, and sort of, what that process was like for you?
Absolutely. And Kelly's mentioned it earlier. Our family's been close, and coming from a Penn State family, a lot of things in my life first were Penn State, right? My first college football game I watched was the 94 Rose Bowl, seeing, Curry do his thing. My first football game I ever attended was Penn State versus Nebraska. I think it was 01 or 2000, something like that. So that was my first experience. And my first college football offer, before I had 55 scholarship offers coming out of high school, was from Joe Paterno going into 9th grade. So he saw, he gave me a scholarship offer before I even played a down in high school football. So my path to Penn State was kind of, it was kind of laid out, but it was a unique one.
Justin, you arrived at Penn State with a lot of fanfare. You were a heralded recruit. As a young student athlete, how did you handle that attention? And what role did your stepfather, Terry Smith, play in that transition?
Well, beyond the transition, my role that my stepdad, Terry Smith, played in was immense just through my whole football career, right? Whether it's just setting the guidance or the bounds of the football ecosystem and how to get a blueprint to success. Him being a coach and me kind of tailing around him, there was always a sense of, top level guys. Again, we talk about first, when he coached in high school in 96, they played a team, North Hills and here in Pittsburgh, and the star player was LeVar Arrington. So at 7 years old, that was my experience to high school football. So that whole path, him just kind of giving me the blueprint to success and the keys to be able to navigate the football ecosystem, and my transition was really the best thing, just empowering me and giving me the codes to know which ways to move, which ways to handle the recruiting process and the whole transition.
So, Justin, I mentioned the 2005 season in the intro. Certainly, you had a big impact that year as a true freshman. Coming into that season, what was your approach and mentality in terms of how were you trying to have an impact early on, and ultimately what led you to having an impact early on?
Well, I think that was one of the main things when I was getting recruited that was very appealing to me about Penn State in general, was just the opportunity to play early, and it had a lot of talent on the team at the time, and I felt like it just needed little pieces to kind of take it over. So I wanted to be a part of like the critical point and the critical transition. And through the process, I got to know Derek Williams and some other guys, and that was kind of the mentality coming in. It was like, we're coming here to do something. So I enrolled at Penn State in January, so 6 months early to get a spring under my belt, to learn both sides of the ball and that whole thing. So like the mentality going into it was really to go out and make an impact. And it was, I would say that it can be unique, but it wasn't, because I had roommates with me, Derek Williams, Jordan Norwood, and Deion Butler, with everyone having like the same mentality, like we're here to make a difference, we can do something special. It was much easier to kind of walk with that confidence and, kind of encapsulating ourselves with a group of like, all right, we're here to make a difference. We're here, we have this expectation on us, and we're here to have fun. And we kind of went out and did it that way.
Justin, the years leading up to the 2005 team were a couple down years in Penn State football history. Going into that season, so two-part question. One, did you feel the pressure going into the 2005 season? And what was the difference between that team and some of the previous teams in terms of what made that team championship caliber versus the previous teams before that?
Well, leading up to that game, I was, understanding Penn State, coming out, I had different offers or whatever the case may be. But Penn State, it didn't seem like they recruited from a standpoint of having pressure, or recruited from a standpoint of being an underdog or whatever the case may be. So it didn't really seem like pressure. I remember being on my recruiting visit, and at the time speaking with the athletic director and president, and there was conversations about, coaching transitions, but that's just the business of football. And again, growing up as Terry Smith's son and being around the business of football, that was just a part that was kind of second nature to me. So we didn't really feel pressure going into the season, but we know that there was an expectation of Penn State football that we were kind of here to fill a void. And there was also understanding that they had a lot of pieces in place. Like there were really good players, like Alan Zamitis was really good. Michael Robinson was really good. Like there were like Paul Poslesley, Dan Connor, like guys were really good on the team already, So we just knew we had some value to provide the already strong nucleus of the team. John's muted.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Justin. Yeah, I mean, you just named like 5. Yeah, we're rolling with it tonight. We're having fun with it. Yeah, appreciate you, Justin. Hey,
no problem.
We talk with, and I was gonna say, you just named like 5 or 6 Hall of Famers when you were talking about your teammates. That was an awesome team to come in with. Hey, we talk with lettermen all the time who, even if they played 20, 30, 40 years ago, like they will talk about their time at Penn State like they just graduated last week. And I think that speaks to the impact that Penn State has on student athletes. When you look back on your time at Penn State, what are some of the vivid memories that stand out for you and really distinguished your time here?
Well, it's like I look at the whole time, it's just like the whole process, right? Like when I think of my time, my relationship with Penn State, starting from the recruiting process, getting recruited in 8th grade, all the way to getting drafted. So that's from 13 to 20. So like my relationship with them, the one thing that always stuck out to me was like the consistency and kind of the personification that everybody at Penn State operated in, whether it was my teammates, the staff that I played under, just the way it was like consistent, you know what it was, and expectations were clear, and it was a critical point in everyone's life that I came up with. But the whole experience and just like the full transformation from 13 to 20, and seeing how much of an impact Penn State had for me, not only me, my friends, my family, like my wife went to Penn State as well. You know what I mean? So, my daughter, all she knows is Penn State football games. So like seeing that from a macro view, now moving outside of it, just seeing how much of an impact and critical points in my life and transitional pieces that Penn State was a part of.
So, Justin, we love having lettermen on from the Joe Paterno era because we get to ask them about their favorite stories and some of the lessons that they learned about Joe. So what's the biggest lesson you learned from Joe, and maybe a funny story from your time playing for Coach?
Sure. A cool lesson I learned from Coach was actually happened once I left and started working in the operations space and working within football departments and understanding how the culture he created at Penn State in terms of how it operated in the locker room, the type of respect everyone had for each other as players, and how the players kind of policed each other, and just how the whole building operated. And the funny story was just like how in tune he was to different critical points, whether it was at practice. A funny story, I forgot who the kicker was at the time, but I remember he missed a few kicks in practice, and it was one of the first times I've seen it where, he's like talking about focusing through difficult things and adversity and always getting better or worse. And regardless of what happens, you have to perform. And it was like a kicker, and he would take a bag, and as the kicker had to make some field goals, as he was kicking, he would hit him with the bag. You know what I mean? Like to see if he would like follow through and kick it and not be scared of an old man hitting him with a bag. And it was a funny thing. We stopped practice, everything, Joe hit him with the bag, and the guy ended up making, 3 for 3 field goals, and it kind of, got him ready for whatever the case may be, because he had an issue with missing like field goals when people were coming close to him and getting ready to hit him. So it was understanding the critical points and when to step in and kind of, run it that way.
It reminds me of the old Mike Tyson quote, right? Everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right?
That was pretty much
popped a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, Justin. So we know that when you come to Penn State, as Terry Smith said, it's a 40-year decision. It's not a 4-year decision. And you came back to you were a part of the program, I think, from 2017 to 2019, a couple of years as a recruiting coordinator. Can you just talk about like what did it mean to be back with the program in that role, and kind of what was your recruiting message, because you could really speak to what that experience was like?
Well, at first it was a blessing to come back, and it was an honor to be able to get my first college job back at my alma mater. And like, great kudos to Coach Franklin, because a lot of people don't understand how coming to a program like Penn State with the prestige and everything like that, sometimes it's hard for coaches to bring back players from previous generations, especially when they play for coaches like Penn State. So for him to bring, my dad back, he got Ty Howell up there now, he has Deion Barnes and all these guys understanding like the culture of Penn State. So like, I really appreciated the time. So it was amazing. My recruiting pitch, I always tried to emulate how Penn State recruited me, because, I saw, 55 offers. I remember, Pete Carroll flying in, like all the different big coaches that are still coaching now, and, Lane Kiffin, whatever the case may be. And the one thing, even when I was going through the process, Penn State was having some downtime. They recruited me from a position of power, right? Like they understood who they were. They understood this is what we have to offer. They never really changed throughout 13 to 17 years old. And that's something that, you get to see as an athlete, and just like, you get to hear different coaches that change, their pitch changes, something might slip up. Penn State was consistent the whole way. So that's what I tried to do through the recruiting process, was kind of figure out if a guy was, one, good enough, and two, was he a fit for Penn State? So more so putting the bait out there of kind of what Penn State was, and the ones that were attracted to it are the ones that we wanted. So trying to never really going after and pitching anything, but like kind of trying to emulate how I was recruited from a position of power, and saying like, this is what we have to offer. This is what this place has done. This is what we can provide, and be consistent with it and let the chips fall. It worked with, Micah Parsons, Jason Owe, Pat Fryermuth. Those are the type of guys that you kind of want to attract, so.
And what great players you were able to attract here to Penn State. Success with honor, each week we talk about that, and how each of our guests just comes out and displays what living success with honor means, right? And you've now transitioned from your life on the field and recruiting student athletes, right, to now helping athletes through your new business. Talk a little bit about the LIG Sports Group and the work you're doing now.
Absolutely. My LIG Sports Group is a football operations strategy consulting group that handles the critical points in the football ecosystem, through recruiting all the way up to helping athletic departments deal with different football operational aspects. So we provide intel, guidance, and support for athletes through education and going through the recruiting process, understanding how to maximize their opportunities. And then we also do, consulting projects with universities and things of that nature. Like, where one example is like Lockdown U, which is an example that kind of encapsulates the business versus strategy consulting thing putting together, where provides an asset for the players at Penn State to kind of, talk about and brand Lockdown U, the group. Also, another support for the university to be able to support a group of athletes, right? In this new space of NIL and college athletes being paid. I had a unique, interesting situation when I worked at the XFL, where it was kind of a glimpse into how it looked, how that was going to look, and how people were going to kind of transition into the marketplace in football. So that's a example of one of the projects that we're working on right now with my business, providing value through the whole football ecosystem, from players, coaches, all the way up to administrators. Muted.
Justin, let's dive into that a little bit about name, image, and likeness. First of all, how upset are you that you weren't able to get yours when you were here at Penn State?
Right? I mean, it's not upsetting. It's actually a blessing, because I feel like I was one of the first few athletes to kind of go through the big recruiting and the big transition in college when it kind of blew up to what it is now. So kind of understanding from a unique standpoint through the avenues in which maybe could have been missed from a player standpoint, and now coming in and working outside and from an executive standpoint to be able to provide value for both the universities and the players. So it's a blessing, and it's a gift and a curse, right?
Absolutely. How have you seen in your business universities taking advantage to name, image, and likeness? How do you see that being used as a recruiting tool, as a former recruiter yourself?
Well, I see it being used as a recruiting tool when it comes down to universities showing that they have support around them, right? Because universities can't really do but so much for the student actually in building their brands. But what they can do is open and be proactive with ancillary services to help their athletes build a brand, and obviously do your right vetting and get things of that nature. But the college athlete, or the marketing of the college athlete, is different than the professional athlete. So understanding that whole piece and ingratiating and bringing more things, services in, are probably the best way to go.
Hey, Justin, we wanted to get your thoughts on Saturday's game, but before we do that, where can folks go if they want to learn more about your company?
Absolutely. You can go to www.ligsports.com. And then, I'm on Twitter at @theking1, and on Instagram, you can follow the Lockdown U. We are Lockdown U, We Are Lockdown U on Instagram, and follow those guys and get to know them. And as the thing builds, support them.
All right, yeah, we can. We'll share that information in the chat area, and when we share this, we'll definitely get that information out, Justin.
Absolutely.
So when we wrap up with guests, we ask them typically for a prediction, but you know what it's like to be in the locker room. You know what it's like to run through the South Tunnel on game day. If you're in the locker room on Saturday, you're 4-0, you're ranked number 4 in the country, what are you telling the guys around you?
I'm telling the guys to stay the course and let's press the gas, right? We got the first 4 games under our belt. We beat 2 ranked teams, 1 in a hostile environment, one at home from the SEC, and now we got build up our confidence a little bit. But it's the first quarter of the season, and our goal is to get to the national championship and win that. So let's build off that confidence, press the gas, and get these boys out of here.
Hey, Justin, we absolutely enjoyed talking with you tonight. We definitely want to stay in touch. We'd love to have you on the show again, if that sounds okay to you. And look forward to keeping in touch, and wish you all the success and happiness in the world, Justin.
Thank you, John. Thank you guys for having me on. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Justin.
Well, all right. Great conversation with Justin King.
Yeah, another Letterman guest, another, awesome success with Honor Story, doing awesome things on the field, off the field. And the current student athletes of this day, they're going to learn from Justin's experience, from his, perspective. And so, yeah, awesome to have him on, especially also timely. So Kelly Lynch on, Justin King on tonight. Just going to talk a few more minutes before we wrap up about the game on Saturday. We've got Indiana coming into town. We've also got some stories on the blog that you can read up on before we get to Saturday. Just a couple quick notes we'll share. We talked with James Franklin this week, got his thoughts on the team entrance, or actually the team arrival getting to the stadium. I asked him what is going through his head and what his emotions are like when the blue buses pull up to the stadium. And he took it like so many steps further. He gave us the route that the team takes from the team hotel to the stadium, I got to say it's more extensive than I ever thought. Like, I'm just thinking they go right to stadium. Like, no way. So if you go to the blog, we've got a story on that. We've also shared the press conference link. And it was also kind of funny. James Franklin acknowledged, like, he doesn't know any of the names of the streets at State College. He's like, we take a left here, we take a right here. You know, the media staff in the room was helping him. So that was kind of funny. But again, just talked about how grateful and appreciative he is and emotional. You know, you're coming up the road, you're coming up over, you know, the little bit of the hill there. You've got, you know, fans lining the street, fans packing the tailgating lots. And so, yeah, good stuff on the blog that can lead us up to Saturday. Our amazing producer, Vince Lungaro, he's got a game preview on the blog that will tell you everything you need to know for Saturday with the Hoosiers coming into town. I'll just say this, Paul. I know people are calling it a revenge game. I'm not in that camp. Penn State has higher goals this year than beating an unranked, basically a basketball school. And so that Penn State's goals are, like you just heard Justin say it, it's winning the national championship. It's not beating Indiana. It's going 1-0. And so, yeah, so some things on the blog. And what do you have your eye on this weekend, Paul?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more about it being a revenge game, right? Because there's no way you can beat the referees, right? And last year I thought we won that game, right? I thought it was a misinterpretation of the rule at the end there. But the most important game, the biggest game of the year, is the next game on your schedule, right? Especially when you're undefeated and rolling and the top 5 in the country. I'm excited. Look, and I'm also excited. I know some people are upset about another night game at Beaver Stadium, right? But I love that America is forced to watch Penn State at our best, right? The lights are on, all the stars are out, right? We're gonna have the stripe out. I just think that's when we're at our best, is to show off, you know, not only what we're able to do on the field, but the support that we give our student athletes from the crowd that shows up to cheer them on. And so, really, really excited about another night game under the lights at Beaver Stadium. Also excited that alumnus Todd Blackledge is coming back to town.
Yeah, Todd Blackledge is in town. I want to know where he did Taste of the Town. I've got to figure. If anyone knows, please drop it in the chat. Like, we're trying to, like, he's probably filming it tomorrow. So if anyone knows, please, we're doing our own investigative reporting. But if anyone has a heads up, we're happy to take tips. Please let us know. Yeah, Todd is on the call for ABC. And you know what? He's one of those guys who, like, he's such a good broadcaster. Sometimes I feel like he gets overlooked as a player, and he was such a good player. Sometimes I feel like he gets overlooked as a broadcaster. Like, he really is an all-star Hall of Famer in both of those categories. And yeah, always nice when you've got an alumnus on the call, because you know he's going to drop those, like, State College special hints. So yeah, a lot to look forward to on Saturday. And I know Alumni Association members have a lot to look forward to year round. And Paul will take us out with some membership notes.
Absolutely. So we want to thank everybody for joining us and for tuning in. We're sorry about some of the technical difficulties, but look, we're having fun here on Football Letter Live. We have a great shot of all of our alumni council members who are back here at the Hintz Family Alumni Center, our first live Football Letter Live event. And so first kind of like with people, like people in studio here with us. It's always live every week. But we just want to mention, you know, the opportunity for both members and non-members at the Alumni Association. We're teaming up with PA Media Group, which publishes Penn Live, to offer a joint membership and a subscription at a discounted rate for the first year. Current members who sign up will have their membership extended for an additional year. You can find more information about this offer from the Penn State Alumni Association and Penn Live in the chat. There's a link in the chat both on Facebook and on YouTube. We also have the Saturday edition that's going to be in your inboxes, so check your email for the Saturday edition of Football Letter Live. The Monday edition with the great writing of John Black and fantastic photos from Steve Manuel every week, every Monday. Like clockwork, you can get a recap of the show from the unique perspective of the Penn State Alumni Association. And as John mentioned, and we're going to bring him on here. As John mentioned, you can read some of the great work of Vince Lungaro and all the great things that he's doing out on the blog, whether it's a game preview or some of the special insights that he has on the Football Letter blog. And so, you know, just check out all of our coverage, the unique way the Alumni Association covers Penn State football. John, it's a wild ride. and I'm ready for it. I'm really excited to see where this team's going to go this year.
Yeah, look, I told you before the year, I said I think we're in for a special season. I mean, whether that's a national championship or something else, and I mean, again, like if James Franklin is watching us, he'd be like, I just want to go 1-0 this week. But look, we're blessed to live in State College, and sometimes you can just feel like we're in for something special. And when you look at the talent on this team, the leadership, there's a lot to look forward to. And I know Vince went out of the studio. Vince deserves a ton of credit. We're using a new platform this year. We're trying a lot of new things. And so, we came across some hiccups, and you know what? We found the solution to move forward. And so we're going to be back next week. We're going to continue to push the envelope. We're going to continue to try things that we haven't tried before, because if we don't do that, Paul, we'll never know what we're capable of. But yeah, you don't see Vince every week, but he's the guy making it happen. He's running the whole show, like I tell him. And so
I can't unmute his mic, but Vince, wave to your mom and dad watching back in Michigan.
I can unmute. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'll wave now. I'll make my cameo, and when everybody's dropping off the stream is when I appear.
Look at the viewers have gone up, Vince. I mean, they're rolling back into the studio for your cameo appearance here. Vince, thanks for all you do for Football Letter Live and for the Penn State Alumni Association. John, what do we have to look forward to next week?
All right, so we've got Mark Rubin on, Letterman Mark Rubin, who he was on that 2018. He had that famous strip stack at strip fumble in Columbus in 2008. And he's also, he has a very impressive title. The short word is he's the most fit person on Wall Street. There's a much fancier title than that. I will look it up. I read it's very lengthy, but he's won it like 4 or 5 years in a row. Mark Rubin, another guy living success with honor, very successful on Wall Street. So Mark Rubin is on Letterman. We'll talk about his time at Penn State. And then Central Iowa chapter president Herb Meyer is going to be on. This time next week, we will be gearing up to go to Iowa City as the show wraps for maybe a top 5 showdown with Iowa. So Letterman Mark Rubin and Central Iowa chapter president Herb Meyer on next week. Lots more good stuff coming up.
Absolutely. Another great show in the books, John. Thanks for all you do for Football Letter Live. And thank you for tuning in. It's always great to interact with alumni, whether it's here in person at the Hintz Family Alumni Center or with you on Football Letter Live watching at home. Thanks for all you do for the university, for the glory, and for the future. We are